Jake, welcome back. How are you, mate?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. Thank you. I appreciate the round two, as promised. Um, yeah, how do you feel the last one went? Were you happy with our chat?
Yeah, last one went great. I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't slice it up and turn it into something that it wasn't. So,
No, awesome. Hate that. Cool. Well, I thought maybe we could just pick up kind of where we left off and start with January 6th, I think is kind of where we left it. First, I just want to kind of ask, when you got in the building and it was all happening, you're getting into the chamber, how did it feel? What was going through your head? Like, did you have fun?
um, it all happened so fast. In all honesty, I think that, especially considering I was trying to help, there was no other ulterior motive than trying to help. Um, and that what I mean is like Capitol Police, prevent violence, vandalism, theft. So my mind was kind of focused on keeping things calm, and the only way to do that is if I was calm.
Hmm. But I mean, did it kind of feel that, did it kind of feel like you were participating in a historic moment, kind of, in a revolutionary act or anything like that? Did you kind of know?
No, I mean, because I understood that it would take far more than what happened now in that day for tyranny or the government to budge. I was, like I said, more focused on trying to do the right thing and make sure that people were protected and nobody got hurt, nothing was stolen or vandalized. That was my main goal. So I
Hmm.
mean, in that sense, I suppose I realized that while some people may think of it as historic now, I came to realize at the time that what happened that day could either it could take on a number of different faces, and that's why I tried to make sure it remained peaceful when it was inside the building.
Right. Do you regret it participating?
I try not to live my life filled with regret. It's far too heavy of a burden to carry with you in life. It can destroy a person. If the circumstances were to repeat, in 2024, would I do what I did in 2021? No, no. Um, I once heard a mistake is only a mistake if you repeat it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a lesson. So if you learn from your mistakes, then they are lessons. If you repeat them, then they're mistakes.
Hmm. Yeah, good way of putting it. Um, so yeah, you take kind of full responsibility for the kind of actions that, took
Of
place and
course,
and all
yeah,
that. Yeah. Do you feel you
yeah.
were unfairly treated?
Well, I'll put it this way. I don't believe that the media or the government treated me very well. I think that considering the circumstances, the judge was fair.
Hmm.
Considering the circumstances, I understand, um, especially in the judge's shoes. I think that the government, i.e., the assistant U.S. attorney, as well as the mockingbirds and the media and the narrative that was spun about me, I don't believe those people were fair whatsoever. I believe that they were most certainly biased in one way or another. The prosecutor's job is to basically, to fry you. So to a certain extent, I don't fully fault her either. But and so in that regard, the media is really the culprit of division and disinformation here. And if the media chose a different narrative, then we would have had a different outcome, not just myself, but everybody involved.
Right. So last time we kind of touched upon briefly about I think you believe that there are a lot of kind of instigators or what's the word I'm looking for? People that were kind of sent there,
Provocateurs.
provocateurs exactly, that may or may not have been on the side of, Donald Trump or whatever. But, despite that, I mean, it did happen how it happened. There were a lot of pro-Trump protesters and rioters that were carrying on quite violently, it was quite a shit show, to be honest. Do you think people should be
Hold on,
outraged?
were you there?
Yeah. Oh no, sorry,
You
I
were
was
there?
not there. No, I was not there.
Oh, okay. So all you've seen is what? What you've seen on TV?
Right. And what was happening live?
Okay.
What was unfolding live?
Okay. Well, I mean, I look,
But
I'm
no,
not
Jake,
going to
I was
deny
not
that there
there. I
was
was not there.
definitely a lot that went on that shouldn't have,
Hmm.
but all of the planning or all of the events that took place on that day were in one way or another foreseen by, and in some cases even orchestrated by, our own government. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there were, over 200 federal agents in the crowd that day, many of which were actually instigating um, illegal activity. Same thing with BLM and Antifa. Were there Trump supporters there? Yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing, bro. Look at it like this. You're in Australia, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So do you remember when after COVID, they basically made it to where if you weren't vaccinated and you were coming into Australia, then the government could and would detain you for up to 2.5 weeks, maybe more. They could just, decide when they were going to let you go. Do you remember that?
I sure do. Yeah, we're the most locked down
Okay.
city in the world in Melbourne.
Yeah. They're literally, locking people up for going to the beach or walking around without a mask. They were beating people because they weren't complying. Now, it wasn't, I think, but what, 30 years ago, maybe more, that Australia banned citizens' use of or possession of firearms?
Right.
Right. And if you look at the current state as far as their attempt to move toward digital currency, their violation of their citizens' rights, like God-given rights, as we Americans like to call them, I foresee that type of treatment coming to the United States if we don't take a stand. Now, is the events of January 6th the proper stand to take? No. I think with January 6th, what ended up happening with the Trump supporters in particular is they had been lied to for a very, very, very long time, not by Trump, but by the media. They were told for 4 years that Trump was colluding with Russia, none of which was true, all of which was produced based on a fake dossier that Hillary Clinton freaking bought and paid for. The FBI's leads on where this information was coming from were from people they knew were compromised. And then, there's also the riots of 2020. There's the Hunter Biden laptop suppression that took place in October, and us being told that it wasn't real, that it was all Russian disinformation. And then there's the election. And then there's all the other stuff that came before that. Hillary Clinton and her 33,000 emails and no prosecution. The Benghazi, no prosecution. Operation Fast and Furious, where our own government was selling firearms to Mexican cartels. No prosecution, no change. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, all for profit, all based on lies. Uh, the weapons of mass destruction thing in Iraq. The list goes on and on. And I think that people are just really, I think this is the case all around the world, but especially in the United States, people are just fed up and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me totally, and I can completely get behind that. I can understand how the American people have had enough with the status quo. I can understand why people would be looking for ulterior candidates, for people that are outside of the box. I just don't. Yeah, I just find it a very difficult thing to get my head around. as we discussed last time, how Trump is kind of any different. He is different that he takes shots at the status quo, but you know, he's yeah, he's very problematic. You know, don't trust, don't take.
Why do you say that?
Oh, I mean, so many reasons. I mean, so many reasons
Okay, well
in my
then list
perspective.
them.
I mean, I guess where I first started being very like weary about Trump was very early on when he was starting doing his rallies in 2015 and basically was calling out, you know, some protester at his thing. If someone wants to beat them up, he'll pay for their legal bills. I remember when he said that, I was like, Jesus, that's a very dangerous way to be conducting yourself as a presidential candidate. I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
that's
remember seeing that, but let's policy wise, I mean, like, let's get to the nitty gritty. That's a small minor issue. That let's talk about like things that
well,
affect.
that's one. That's one. You know,
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Let's get to the deeper stuff. What else?
yeah, I mean, you know, he's been civilly liable to be found as a you know, sexual abuser.
Are you talking
There's
about that John Carroll chick
E.
or was
Jean
that whatever her
Carroll.
name is?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
hmm
So you believe that woman?
I mean, he was found by a
She
jury of
hold
his
on. There was no
peers.
documentation that it ever happened.
I mean, he was found by
There's
a jury of
no
his peers to
proof.
be guilty.
What?
So he was found by a jury of his peers to be guilty.
Okay, okay. You believe that a jury in New York is a jury of Donald Trump's peers?
I mean, look, we have standards. Oh, you guys have standards.
Well,
So
no. But that's
if
the
we're going to
thing
pick
is
and
that
choose what's
we
complete
don't.
rubbish and
We
not,
we don't. We don't have standards because the thing is, Tara Reid has the documentation. Tara Reid has everything that would be necessary in order to file charges against Joe Biden for the very real sexual harassment that took place when he was a senator against her, and then the threats that commenced afterward when she showed that she wasn't interested. All of those things are glaringly obvious for anybody that looks into it. So this is my issue, and I'm not trying to interrupt you, but okay, you're saying he said something in a rally that you didn't like that sounded like he was inciting violence. Now you're saying that he's a convicted sexual predator because of Jean Carroll's testimony, even though this woman has no documentation, even though all she has is hearsay, and a rigged jury in New York decided that he was guilty, which they did that with 34 counts just the other day as well. Are
yeah.
those, I mean, that there's got to be more to
Yeah, I mean,
your
there's plenty
disliking of
more.
him.
There's plenty more. He lied
Okay,
about
so let's go through it because
the outcome
I
of the
don't
election.
understand how it is the man in Australia who sees where the Biden policies have gotten his country can in any way, shape, or form not see that Donald Trump would not do those things.
You know, the entire lying about the election. I'm sure you won't think he
He didn't
didn't
lie
lie
about the
about the
election. That's not
election.
true.
How
That's
do you
not
know that's
true.
not true?
Georgia's just came out with paperwork proving that they certified a fraudulent election, and there's more and more stuff coming out about Michigan, about Wisconsin, and what's happened in here in Arizona. Like those are all the swing states, and Pennsylvania. That was unconstitutional. Every law they changed was not through an act of Congress. It was through the courts. So like it's not a lie about the election. I mean, I don't know what network you're watching, but I think that you got to broaden your scope there, bud.
I mean, the nothing was proved. They challenged it multiple times, and it was pretty
No,
much shut down by a
no.
court every time.
What it is that the courts wouldn't hear the case, bro. There's a big difference between not having evidence and a court refusing to hear the case. And what we're also talking about is civil suits here. We're not talking about federal suits. And part of the reason why there were no federal suits is because the DOJ is fucking corrupt, dude. Even when Trump was in office, Bill Barr is a coward.
Hmm.
And he's deep state and been deep state for a long time. Trump's biggest fault, in my opinion, was that he was far too trusting of the wrong people. He tried to play ball and think that he was going to get something done, only to get stabbed in the back over and over again.
I mean, the amount of people within Trump's inner circle that have spoken out against him, just saying this guy is quite dangerous, really doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, just the list is endless.
Okay, so let me ask you this, dude. When Trump was in office, we were told that the economy was going to fall apart, the country was going to be destroyed, and he was going to get us into World War III. We were told that over and over and over again by the people that, first of all, made all the messes that Trump was trying to clean up. And second of all, these claims were being made by the exact same people right now that have destroyed the country. The economy is collapsing, and they're trying to get us involved in World War III. Like, we're really like this far away from it with the whole Ukraine, Russia, and Israel thing with Palestine, like the religious tensions in the Middle East, the tensions in Ukraine, and the fact that Russia just put a nuclear sub and a couple of ships in Cuba. China is talking about taking Taiwan before the end of the year while we're all squabbling amongst ourselves. Do you not see that the very people that are claiming that Trump is the problem are the very people that have created all these problems over the last several decades they've been in power? I mean, these are the same people that have been responsible for every single blunder that you and I have had a problem with before Trump.
I guess my perspective would be both could be correct, like it doesn't mean it's not good versus evil in my opinion. I just say shit and shitter, and whichever direction you want to call the shitter option. Like don't trust a lion to get rid of a rat problem kind of thing. I think you can judge by Trump's history of, not paying off construction workers, the kind of guy he kind of is. He's kind of failed upwards throughout his career. Trump University was kind of, I think, determined to be kind of fraudulent, wasn't it? There's a lot of problems with the guy, a lot. And yeah, I mean, again, like that's fine. It's fine to disagree. But yeah, I guess I do find it confusing, just as you said to me, how people can't see the problems with the guy. But that's okay.
Well, here's my thing, dude, is that does he have character flaws? Yeah, we all do. One thing I like about him is that he doesn't try to hide them. He at least is who he is in front of the cameras, regardless of whether or not they're rolling or not. And when it really comes right down to it, bro, I don't understand how it is that people can be so fixated on an individual and saying that this individual is the problem, when in fact there are plenty of individuals that have been in DC for decades as America has gotten worse and worse and worse. And then the moment that somebody new gets in, all of those people that have been responsible, these individuals that have been responsible for the degradation and destruction of our country, the depletion of our military equipment, or giving it away to the Taliban, or our funding and our tax dollars, all these same people that are responsible for all that are pointing at one person, one individual, and saying he's the root, he's the cause of all of our problems. Mind you, Donald Trump as a man was saying the same things 30 years ago on Larry King Live or on Oprah Winfrey's talk show that he's saying now. There is no politician that has that kind of record. So, regardless of the flaws, the character flaws that he most certainly has, as we all do, at least he's not trying to sell us on some bullshit. At least he's not putting up some fake face. At least we know that when he's tweeting something, it's
he
him tweeting
literally
it.
is putting up a fake face. He wears orange makeup and peroxides his hair.
Orange makeup.
Like,
Okay, so there.
he's
Now,
he's
I
so
think you got
fake,
a little
dude.
bit of
He's so fake.
TDS going on there, Jack. But I don't necessarily think it's productive that we go back and forth, because I'm not going to sit here
Sure.
and like have a whole show where I'm defending Trump and you're
No,
bashing
no,
him,
no. That's fine.
or
That's fine.
you
That's
know,
fine.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. That's fine. Completely disagree on that. Which I expect. That's fine. Do you think it was problematic that he was missing for 3 hours during the Jan 6 riots when everything was going down?
I think it's more problematic that Twitter took down his tweets.
Yeah, but you're
I
not
think
answering
that
you're not answering the question though.
no. What this is what I'm trying to get you to understand is that those 3 hours that you're saying that he was missing, he was actually in the. He has tweets that were taken down in that time, telling people to remain calm, be peaceful, to not break the law. All of those things were in his tweets that were taken down by Twitter in the time that you're claiming he was quote unquote missing.
I actually haven't heard that before. So you're talking
Oh, dude, yeah.
separately. You're talking
Look
separately.
for him.
You're talking separately from the ones where he said, go home, everyone, which is like 3 hours later. There were actual
That was
tweets.
like 4 hours or 3.5 hours
Right.
later.
So you're
In
saying there were
between
tweets
when he
during the
quit
time.
speaking, in between when he quit speaking at the ellipse to the final tweet telling everybody to go home, there were, I think, 2 or 3 tweets in between there
Hmm.
that Twitter took down.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'll look into that. I wasn't aware of that. So you said when you're in Jan 6 that Washington DC is on ley lines. What are ley lines, and what is the significance of that kind of brought you there to do your prayers?
Well, ley lines are the electromagnetic lines that surround and fill our planet. So, as I'm sure you know, we have an electromagnetic field around our planet, right?
Hmm.
Well, the electromagnetic lines that make up that field go all the way down to the crust. And then there's certain locations on the surface of the crust. They all go all the way down to through the crust and to the core. So there's locations on the crust where these lines crisscross each other, where these electromagnetic lines cross one another. And that's where the ancient pyramids and obelisks, the ancient medicine wheels and temples were built, was on these ley lines, because these ley lines, these electromagnetic lines in the earth, they also affect our thoughts and our emotions, which are electromagnetic frequencies. So our thoughts and our emotions are influenced by these ley lines and by the electromagnetic activity emanating from them. That's why the ancients tried to put these ley lines and these buildings on these ley lines as temples or as places that they could recharge their consciousness. Now, Washington D.C. in our monuments, the obelisk, the Washington Monument, the Capitol Building, the White House, the Lincoln Memorial, the Supreme Court, the Jefferson Memorial, all these things are built on ley lines. Okay. And those ley lines are designed to channel this electromagnetic activity and the vortexes in the ecosystem so as to affect, in one way or another, our thoughts and our emotions. Now, you can create a grid system that elevates our consciousness, that raises the frequency of our electromagnetic field and our thoughts and our emotions, or you could have a system set up that does completely the opposite. And so the legal buildings in Washington, D.C. are in effect making code, a code that affects our thoughts and our emotions through legislation. They're putting ink on paper and saying, these are the rules now. This is the code that everybody will abide by. Now, if criminals or corrupt people write the code, then, and they're the ones enforcing this code on everybody else, then you can see how and why that would be a problem, because they're essentially using their code to instill fear and lack of freedoms, which can and will affect our thoughts and our emotions and therefore our behavior.
Hmm. How are ley lines measured?
Well,
How do we know?
you
How do
can,
we know where they are?
okay, so you can use like devices and stuff, like electronic devices, to find them. Shamans have been used or have used their bodies because they're so heavily attuned to these types of frequencies. They've used their bodies to find these locations. A lot of them are in, well, so certain places, like for example, the pyramid in Giza, you can just follow the line straight due north, and you'll be able to see where the ley line moves to and through the earth. Both ley lines that the pyramid is built on. There's also many different convergence sites where there's more than just two ley lines crossing. There's some where you have multiple layers of ley lines crossing one another. Like, for example, the Bermuda Triangle is a very, very massive location where these ley lines cross and a large vortex of electromagnetic activity resides. Um, so the ancients used shamanism. They also, I'm sure, used uh like, I guess you could call them dowsing rods or something. They had their ways of figuring out where these things were. We can use things like certain frequencies, as well as certain devices and stuff like that to detect where they're at.
Hmm. So you're saying that the city planning and all the architecture of Washington, D.C. took all this ancient knowledge into account for the significance of writing laws and governing and looking after the American people. All that ancient knowledge was in consideration?
Well, yeah, you're aware that our founding fathers, many of them were Freemasons, are you not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, they moved the capital, I believe it was from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. on purpose. And I believe it was because they found where these ley lines were at and decided that this would be the place that would be best to build their capital. Now, keep in mind, our founding fathers attempted to uh, revive Greco-Roman philosophy and architecture, not just philosophy regarding life, but also political beliefs. So when I say Greco-Roman, what I mean is Greek democracy, Roman is the republic. So, and they also took from their designs of their architecture. And much of the ancient Roman buildings and ancient Greek buildings were built, or much of the temples and stuff were built on top of ley lines.
Hmm.
So this ancient wisdom and understanding that harkens far, far, farther back than just ancient Greece and Rome, but goes all the way back to prior to the flood, is and always has been playing a role not just in society here in the United States, but across the world. There's pyramids in China.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I used to be very, very obsessed with pyramids. I mean, still kind of am, maybe a bit less so, but yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I didn't know that about DC. Um, your time in prison, how was it?
It sucked.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah, I
recommend it.
bet. No, totally. Tell us about your you went on a hunger strike while in there, didn't you? You
No, I
demand.
didn't.
Oh, you didn't. Fake,
No, I
false.
just didn't eat the food because it wasn't organic. It had nothing to do with a hunger strike.
Hmm. So how did that all play out? How long were you not eating the food until you got organic
11
food
days.
of no food?
11 days of no food.
Wow, that's got to be tough, man. How was
Yeah,
it?
especially when you're sitting in a jail cell 23 hours out of the day,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
knowing
and
what's going to happen to you and having the media spread lies about you.
mm-hmm. How what was that like? So did they eventually? You just basically said, "I'm not eating food unless it's organic," and they eventually said, "Oh, all right, cool, we will. This is
No,
not worth."
the judge gave a court order, and Washington D.C.'s jail could not or would not comply with the court order. So I was transferred to Alexandria, Virginia.
Far out. That's got to be a lot. That's got to be a very, very stressful entry to prison.
Yeah, yeah, jail sucks. Prison sucks. Jail's worse, but both of them suck.
And how are you treated there by the people, the inmates and the guards?
In the DC jail,
Sure. So you were
just in
transferred after,
general.
yeah, just in general. Was it what
Well,
was it?
DC jail sucked. It was the only time I ever experienced racism in my life was in the DC jail. Um, and other places were not cool at all. Solitary confinement for 10 and a half months was not cool at all. It really sucked. It was very difficult.
How long? How
Getting to
long did you say?
prison,
How
10 and a
long?
half months of solitary.
What happened to your mind in that time? That's got to be a really torturous experience. Where did you go psychologically?
It was of no comfort taking astral voyages outside of my body because I knew I always had to come back to it. It was very difficult. The pressure is unbelievable.
Hmm. Did you said astral voyages. Did you use the time to kind of meditate uh to astral
I
travel, I
tried,
guess?
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like I said, it was bittersweet. You always had to come back to your body inside of a cage. And at the end of the day, it's very, very difficult for the mind to relax when you don't know what the future holds. And you have the media spreading lies about you and the government using every element or every resource they can to demonize you as an individual. And then you have your lawyer spreading lies about you, and you can't say a damn thing about it. and you can't leave the cell for more than 20, I mean, for more than 2 hours every 22 hours.
Hmm.
So, it's very difficult to find some level of peace while you're in a state like that.
Do you think that amount of time in solitary confinement changed you as a person?
Made me stronger in
Hmm.
that regard. It changed me for the better.
And why did they put you in solitary confinement?
They said it was because of COVID, and then they also said it was for my own protection because I was so high profile. But both of those things went right out the window when I was transferred to Oklahoma and Colorado. So I think it's bullshit.
Hmm. Just a punishment, a further punishment on top of the punishment.
I think so.
Hmm. I mean, yeah,
They
that's
say that the process is the punishment,
hmm.
kind of like what Trump's going through right now in New York, and what he went through with this Carol chick, this John Carroll chick. The process is the punishment.
Hmm. Yeah.
Media lying about you, politicians using you for their own political gain, lying about you, having to show up to court, having to pay your lawyer, having to defend yourself, having to deal with the BS. That's all the process is the punishment.
What were the biggest lies that infuriated you the most while you were unable to speak for yourself that the media put out there?
Oh, that I was a failed actor, that I chose the name QAnon shaman, that I was mentally ill. I have my lawyer to thank for that one. Never
Hmm.
ran that one by me, never asked me if it was okay if he said something that wasn't true.
Yeah, so he completely misrepresented your defense, didn't he? Saying
Yeah,
you're
he did
un
not he didn't do a good job at all.
hmm. How would you have
My current
preferred
lawyer is much better.
right? How would you have preferred to have been represented in your defense? What
Not the
narrative would you have
well,
preferred to kind of be a valid
I
defense?
just dude,
Hmm.
the
Yeah,
truth.
and wherever that lies, whatever ruling as a result of that truth, so be it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, fair,
yeah.
fair, fair, fair. Um, I heard you say, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're a targeted individual
I have experienced the use of psychotronic weapons, yes.
before all this, before Jan
Before
6.
all this,
So
yes.
tell me what exactly that all means and what you
Well, some
experienced.
people have had it a lot worse than I have,
I've
but
spoken to people, targeted individuals. Hmm.
yeah, I've gotten the rashes before, gotten severe headaches, severe back pain, toothaches, pain behind the eyes, ears ringing a lot, dreams being messed with, muscle quaking in opportune times. Let's see, what else? Not being able to have a private thought, all sorts of weird shit.
What does that mean? Not being able to have a private thought. What does that mean?
Well, the psychotronic weaponry doesn't just have the ability to, influence thought patterns or cause somebody to think they're hearing a voice. It also has the ability to read or broadcast a person's thought patterns. So if a person is a targeted individual, that means that their minds are most likely being read by technology that basically attunes to the frequency of the thought frequency in our brain and then essentially allows this technology to broadcast a person's internal dialogue
Hmm.
on speakers.
And did that happen to you
Uh-huh.
on speakers? What speakers?
Well, no, it happened to me in that as I went through all of these other symptoms, I also had very direct indications that the things that I was thinking to myself personally were being listened to and feedback was being given based on my thought patterns.
Through synchronicities or conversations
Oh,
or
or
what?
just in some cases direct messaging.
Hmm. How did you come to the conclusion that it's technology doing these things? Like, I mean, a lot of the symptoms that you're describing I mean,
because
that
I
could be a variety of things, you know, like
no, that's the thing, bro. Yeah, once you're a targeted individual, you'll understand. Synchronicities can and will occur, but one thing you got to understand, dude, is that like, let me ask you this: have you ever seen a ghost before?
no, I have not. But I'm open
Okay.
to
Have
it. I'm
you ever
open
seen a
to it.
UFO?
I've seen a light in the sky that was strange. I don't know what it was, but
Okay.
I'm a big believer
So,
of the
but would
UFO
it be
phenomenon.
fair? Have you ever stolen anything, raped anybody, killed anybody?
Um, my rape and murder count is at a 0 at the moment.
Good, right? But
I
you've
have
stolen
stolen.
something
I
maybe
have
when you were a
stolen in the
kid,
past. Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you're unfamiliar with 90% of these experiences, but that doesn't mean that they're not real. And that doesn't mean that they don't happen. They just haven't happened to you yet, or you haven't done them yet, right? So
Sure.
when you encounter individuals that say that they're a targeted individual, or that they've had this type of technology used on them, what you can end up discovering is that there are a number of different symptoms or things that happen to the individual when this type of weaponry is deployed. um I knew about this stuff before uh before it was being used on me. Now here's the interesting part, though, is that it wasn't all bad. So there are benevolent forces that have access to this kind of technology as well. um some of it bad, some of it good, in my experience. You can use this as a tool or as a weapon. You can use it to liberate a mind or to enslave one. This type of weaponry is used in MK Ultra, Project Monarch mind control type operations that are still going on to this day, by the way. And if you know about the technology, and then you know what's happened, and then you have these symptoms and you have these things happen, which the types of symptoms that I'm talking about are not the only strange things that occurred during the time that I've had these things happening to me, or afterward for that matter. So I'm well aware that it's not psychosis, because crazy people don't know that they're crazy. They think that they're sane. So interestingly enough, one of the best ways to know that you're not crazy is questioning if you are going crazy.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, but there's definitely people that have experienced, and I'm not suggesting this is you at all, but there are definitely people who have experienced voices in their head that are very aware that this is a very bad sign for me psychologically. They're not all.
Well, imagine, yeah, I agree. Schizophrenia and all sorts of other issues are, you know, are you aware that the I believe it was the House what no the Homeland Security Committee recently came out and did a video about, or they were at a questioning, they were questioning, I think it was like a CIA contractor or something, about this exact type of weaponry that I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And the government basically admitted, CIA, the Homeland Security Committee admitted that this weaponry is real, that it exists, and it has been being used on American citizens and foreign adversaries.
Is there a name to this technology? Is there more information
Yeah,
you
it's
could?
called psychotronic weaponry or psychoelectronic weapons.
Hmm. Right. Why do you think you?
Neuroelectronic weapons is another term for it.
And is there any kind of paper trail of proof that this technology exists, or is it kind of?
Yes, there's
Yeah.
patents.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can look them up.
Yeah. 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 I'm generally
Voice of
interested.
God technology, voice to skull technology. It's all out there. You just got to do a little bit of digging.
Hmm. Why do you think you were chosen as a targeted individual? What was your
Well,
actions or your
it
why?
was it. Look at it like this: when you go to knocking on certain doors, then your IP address is flagged automatically. And then after that, they watch you and they see what you do. They see what your habits are like. They see why are you going to, Project Camelot's website? You know, why are you looking into the WikiLeaks emails? Right? When you go and you leave like a digital trail like that, um, let's just say that you're tagged afterward.
Mm. Yeah. You say, claim you've seen some UFOs, correct? Tell me about that.
Seen all different kinds. I've
Many,
seen
have you?
blue and orange orbs. I've seen like saucer like discs that are like cloaked, almost like Predator, you
Mm.
know. Um, I've seen the cigar shaped craft, the metallic cigar shaped craft. I've seen balls of light that lit the backyard of my my house brighter than the sun for about 2 seconds. Um, I've seen all sorts of stuff.
Mm. What do you think they are?
In some cases, they're physical like craft, In other cases, they're bilocating or astral projecting interdimensional entities. It really all depends on the behavior of the UAP
Hmm.
as to whether or not it's what I like to call an organic UFO or organic UAP versus a mechanical or a mechanic UAP or UFO.
Do you think they're the same phenomenon, the kind of balls of light, the craft, or they're
No,
very different things?
no, no. The craft are a government response to the organic.
Right. Do you think any of the mechanical UFOs are from other dimensions or aliens at all? Or that it's all government craft, you reckon?
I suppose it's possible. I think that what a lot of people don't seem to really understand is that once time travel technology is invented, then everything changes. So, what we might consider a future civilization to us, given their technology, might be alien. And considering the fact that we would be in a different part of the galaxy at that time, that far into the future, traveling that distance from A all the way to where our planet is right now could be considered an extraterrestrial civilization because it's so much more advanced and the genes aren't the same as they are now.
Hmm.
And they have to travel a great distance in order to get here. I don't think that's quite what you're asking, though. I think
None.
that um, when it comes to things like artificial intelligence, that's an alien, and it's here. It's here. Like it's not an insect. It's not a mammal. It's not a human being. It's not an amphibian. It's not a cephalopod. It's not a fungi. It's not a reptile. It's not a fish. So, what is AI? What is
Hmm.
it? If it's a conscious being and it's none of those things, then what the fuck is this thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's an invasive species.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a cool argument. Is life limited to biology, you know? If we're wiped out and the robots manage to stay, you know, repopulating themselves, so is that life? Is that actually life? I mean, yeah, interesting idea. So, what do you think is going on with the alien UFO UAP phenomena? Do you think that there are potentially other dimensional beings or extraterrestrial civilizations that are contacting us, that the US government is hiding that? What do you
Well, I think that we made contact with like what could be considered like a Decepticon type artificial intelligence that
Hmm.
exists in the universe. I think we made contact a while ago. And also regarding like things like demonic worship and demons as far as interdimensional entities go, or even angelic beings. I think that the intelligence community, as well as the secret society community, which they're kind of like this at this point, have made contact both with interdimensional beings like AI and demonic or angelic beings that are like more spiritual or interdimensional entities than, some people might consider AI to be. Uh, there are extremely advanced civilizations out there, absolutely, absolutely. Um, but they're so far advanced that they've realized that the only way that we're going to grow is if they don't interfere directly. There's levels of consciousness and unity, what's, like unity consciousness, as far as like a collective and a planet is concerned, that we have to reach these thresholds organically. We have to reach them on our own, because if there's any sort of artificial interference, then as we start to ramp up and become higher and higher in frequency and more intense in in our levels of comprehension and interconnectivity, or conscious interconnectivity rather, they, because we are artificially helped, it would become unstable and we would fall. These things have to organically take place in order for the structure of our civilization and our collective consciousness to be maintained long term. um, and in that regard, probably the best thing that some of these entities could do, because life is more spiritual than physical, so some of the best things that these entities could do is actually incarnate on the planet, kind of like they've been doing for thousands of years. We call them like Buddha or Christ or something. They come to the planet, they're like, no, 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 you guys got it all wrong, this is how you do it, bro.
Mm,
And then we always get one step closer after they've come into the world. We get one step closer to, collective ascension.
mm. Why do you think you've seen so many sightings?
I was ready for it. I
Mm,
wanted to see it. You know, it's also a part of the shamanic path. Um, being in almost like a medium between the worlds is what shamanism is all about.
mm. Do you think
I've had
there's
paranormal experiences as well. So,
like
you
what?
know, oh, things like waking up in the middle of the night and feeling something sit on the foot of my bed or next to my torso on my bed.
Like sleep
You know,
paralysis?
No, no, not sleep paralysis. I'm feeling something sit on my mattress, like somebody put a bowling ball next to my torso or at the near the foot of my bed on my, like near my feet.
Mm,
Um, and that happened often, often enough to, be like, oh yeah, it's just one of those things again, no big deal. I never got like negative vibes though. It was never like anything was there to hurt me. It was just like almost like a recognition, like I'm just acknowledge, I want you to, like, this thing was like I'm here, I'm present. um which ended up, coming in handy later, but that's another story for another time. um you know there's other things that have taken place, like my parents bed sheets and pillows, they had a what's it called, a water bed. And so anybody that's ever had a water bed and has tucked their sheets in know how much of a bitch it can be to, once they're tucked in, to pull them out. And my parents' sheets and their pillows would end up being pulled from the top of the bed after the bed's made all the way down to the base, and pillows scattered everywhere. And for the longest time, I thought it was the dogs, and didn't believe that there was any sort of paranormal roots, in spite of the things I had experienced growing up. And one day I came home early from school because I was a senior and I only had 4 classes. My dad insisted that I sweep them up and vacuum the house uh, when I got home. So I was the only one in the house. I was vacuuming the house. And I moved the vacuum from the living room into my parents' room, but the cord was too short and I couldn't vacuum my parents' room from when with the vacuum plugged in the living room. So I brought the vacuum in my parents' room. Their sheets were fine. Walked into the living room, unplugged the vacuum, walked back into my parents' room, and the sheets were messed up like before, like taken down to the base and pillows thrown everywhere. And there wasn't it, there was not it wasn't the dogs, because the dogs are afraid of the vacuum. They want to go nowhere near the vacuum. So what the hell was it? And that was, something that really helped to wake me up to the idea that no, the paranormal is real. There's other things I've experienced that we just don't really have too much time to
Mm.
get into, but you know, I've also had visions of the future and stuff, dude. So, and visions of the future that came true, not just like deja vu and shit, but like actual predictions, like about the political things that are going to happen and global events and shit like that.
So what do you think it is about you? I mean, you've had so many very unique experiences, the supernatural, the UAP, the targeted individual. What do you think it is? I think we touched on it last time, the idea of a bodhisattva, or what do you think what do you think is your calling, your life's purpose or mission?
Save the world, bro.
Mm,
Save the world and humanity.
a noble
So
cause.
it makes sense, it makes sense in that regard.
What's the plan to save the world? I mean, you've said through conversations and stuff like that, but what's the it's a big task.
Yeah, nothing's impossible without God. I've got the schematics, you know. I've been given to some sort of a plan, you know. I guess the real goal is getting people to fucking listen, getting them to set down their little outrage about X, Y, or Z, Orange Man bad, old Biden poop his pants, It's like, look, dude, like we got much more important things to worry about right now than you know what I'm saying? Like I hope you understand what it is that I'm getting at when I say that. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fixation here is it's like, and this is what you guys lose your mind over.
Mm.
Okay, like we literally got like Idaho's water was getting shut down because the government was corrupt and said that the farmers were not allowed to water their crops, but this mining company mining for cobalt is more than welcome to run their mines 24/7 with all the water that they could possibly need. But you don't need your water for your farms. Like that didn't go anywhere near as far as this chick talking about sucking dick.
The
You
Hawk
know what I'm
Tour
saying?
chick.
And she's hot, dude. I think she's hot. Don't get the wrong idea. And I get like the whole idea behind it. There was a joke. It was raw. It was in the moment. It's funny. Okay, good. Move on. But like, it's like that motherfucker is not real. The plane lady, and how nobody knew who she was. And there was this sting of who is she? What did she see? It's like, dude, we got way more important things to worry about right now. Like, there's still starving children around the world. There's still slaves in Africa. Like, there's a bunch of people that are dying because of these clot shots that the government mandated everybody get. There's like massive scandals going on. There's all this money laundering in Ukraine. People are being killed with drones, for God's sake. And like, you guys are worried about, you
Yeah, but
know,
so I mean, look, I'm not. I agree with you. So social media and extremely powerful tool to manipulate, to control people, blah blah blah. But there is also a level of like escapism. Like all the things that you mentioned. Some people just feel so damn helpless. They cannot bear the raw reality of the world. So then when these kind of silly meaningless things go viral, it's just a little respite so they don't have to think about the horrors. It doesn't all have to
I
just be
understand.
um
Well, I'm not,
I
I'm
think
also
both.
not
I think
talking.
both are true.
But there's also things like, okay, why, if Nikola Tesla discovered an infinite free clean source of wireless electricity over 100 years ago, then why are we talking about, okay, because our minds, the public mind, is one that is been slowly eroded and degraded, and the focus and the attention span is nowhere near what it used to be.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
their solutions are really what we should be focusing on, and that's what I've really tried to focus a lot on. And that's why, like, talking about January 6th, like, I'll do it, but I can't help but roll my eyes from time to time, because it's like, no, dude, like, really, that's not a big deal. What's a big deal is that we have these different sources of energy and different ways of healing using frequencies and vibration that dissolve tumors and kill cancer. We've got these ways we can purify our water. We've got whole other ways of living. We got craft that have just been declassified that literally will allow us to go into outer space and become a spacefaring species, colonize the moon and Mars and all sorts of shit. And we're not talking about it.
Hmm. Yeah,
So the
yeah,
plan to save the world is actually quite easy to understand and elaborate. Uh, though elaborate it may be, it's still simple. It's just not everybody's ready to hear it because outrage sells.
yeah. That's definitely true. What do you think is going to happen? I'll wrap it up shortly. What do you think is going to happen? You know, this is the year of the election. Many people think it's a battle of good versus evil. That's you know, there's a lot riding on this election. What do you think? What do you think will happen if I don't know, either Trump wins or Biden wins?
I don't know. We'll see.
Hmm.
Um, I
Where do you think there'll be more
either
outrage?
way, either way, there's gonna be some group of people that are upset. Either way, the media has convinced both sides that if either candidate wins, our country is kaput.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you think there'll be another Jan 6 like event? Do you think there'll be another kind of
I mean,
attempted
I
uprising or
think
anything?
I,
Or
I
either
don't
way?
think so. Maybe if Donald Trump wins, then yeah.
Hmm.
Don't put it past the left to do everything that they've accused their enemy of doing and then excusing it. um, I mean, look at what they did with this whole Palestinian thing in the House and the Congress recently.
What's that?
Bowman pulled the fire alarm during a a vote because the side was losing and he was trying to delay and no charges are pressed. It's the exact same thing that they accuse J6ers of. Um, I don't know, man. I really don't know. That's what's kind of interesting about all this, and that's one of the things. I mean, I'll put it this way: Trump didn't lose in 2020. Okay, if these freaking people really believe that Biden got 81 million votes, then why are they panicking so much and trying to throw Trump in jail or trying to keep him off the ballot? Why are they vilifying Trump supporters and like he has more Trump support now than he ever did in 2020 and he had more then than he did in 2016. I mean, the hood is for Trump now. You got rappers and models and, all sorts of people, UFC fighters coming out in support of Trump, you know, and he didn't really have anywhere near that level of support in 2020 or in 2016. So, and he dude literally raised something like 400 million in 2 weeks after he was found guilty in New York. So I uh, if we have real honest and fair elections where illegals are not allowed to vote, which the Democrats are really pushing for that now because they know that that's the only way that they can actually gain any more votes. If we have honest fair elections and it's in the bag for Trump, it'll be a sweep. There's nobody that is of that either isn't bought off or blackmailed that is in support of Biden.
Hmm. I mean, you know, Biden won more votes out of a protest for Trump. It wasn't that many people loved Biden. It was a protest for Trump. You,
You
you,
can
you,
think
you,
whatever you want, dude. I think you're living in
you'd,
a lie.
you'd agree though he's divisive.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even agree that Trump's divisive?
No, the media is divisive.
But no, no,
That's
no.
that's what's
But
divisive.
you wouldn't
Trump
agree that
Trump
Trump's
is not
divisive?
divisive.
You don't think so at all?
No, Trump is not divisive. The media is divisive, as they have
Hmm.
been for decades, by the way.
Hmm. I
When was
mean,
the last time? Well,
both
hold
can
on,
be
think
true,
about this.
Jake. Both can be true.
When was the last time that the media was on the side of both sides of the media were on the side of any one president?
When was the last time?
Yeah.
Both sides of the media were on the side of any one president? Oh, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Well, I think that's my point, is that
Mm,
I cannot recall any time that the media and all the American people are like, yeah, that's our president right there. He's representing us around the world. We support him, we love him, we like him, we want him in office. There that has not happened in my lifetime, and I don't think it's happened in my parents' lifetime either.
mm,
So, I mean, I think that when we look at the fraud and the rigging that took place in 2020, I mean, just the Hunter Biden laptop suppression alone in October of 2020 is enough to call election interference. But then there's all these other things like the Dominion voting machines being manufactured in China, which, if you know technology, bro, you got to know all it takes is a little chip about that big, size of what's in between my fingers, that big, to be in these voting machines, and China has a back door to rig our elections.
have they
You
found
know,
those chips?
what's that?
Have they found those chips that you're talking of?
Well, why do you think they were so worried when when that fighter jet, that I think it was an F-35 or something, ended up going missing or going crazy without a pilot in it? Do you remember that
Can't remember
here
that
in the
one.
United States?
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's because they worried that we were getting because we were getting all of our chips from China. I mean, it's the same thing with our laptops and our smart TVs, only it's the CIA, the radios and shit. Like all of our devices are spy devices for somebody, bro. Our
yeah.
phones, our cell phone, our TVs, our computers, they all have these little hardware pieces in them that are designed to largely be invisible and, uh, an afterthought. But in fact, they process the software that is used by NSA, CIA, CCP, you name it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's very extremely concerning, And yeah, that all the data collection all started under Obama, right? All that what Edward Snowden was speaking out against. Yeah, I mean,
Five Eyes.
I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with you with all that. Um, Jake, we've just clocked another hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be sure to book a doctor's appointment and get my Trump derangement syndrome checked out. And
A good dose
but
of mushrooms will do it.
oh man, I'm way ahead of you. Way ahead of you with that. But I tell you, none of them have given me the conclusion that Donald Trump's a good guy. But anyway, that's okay to disagree. On a positive note, totally don't have to do this if you want, but being a shaman and anything, is there any kind of like blessing or prayer that you could kind of offer my audience to listen of some kind of positivity, some kind of energetic, you know, prayer, meaning, chant, anything that you could offer?
I mean, one of my favorite um, mantras to do that has always been pleasant for me is Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. And from what I understand, that means that God is the jewel at the center of the lotus, which is nothing more than my heart. So it's a beautiful little prayer. You can also, you know, repeat the holy names of God over and over again. If you are into that, you could easily just say Yahweh over and over and over again. The point here with mantra or prayer is to attune your consciousness, to unite the two hemispheres, the abstract and the logical portions of the brain, to activate the pineal gland in the center of your brain, to expand and open like a pine cone and be able to perceive other frequencies of light or electromagnetic activity, to narrow the focus almost to like a laser type uh, sharp focus, and then to produce a frequency that ends up affecting the quantum entangled universe in a way that is most positive for you and the world. So I would say that regardless of if you're saying Om, if you're saying the Our Father, if you are a whirling dervish, or reciting any prayer, any Buddhist prayer, Hindu, whatever, Christian, Hebrew. The point is to get in touch and in tune with the Almighty. Native Americans have their own way too. We want to learn a traditional Native American song, or like an ayahuasquero song, what they call an Icaros, whatever helps you get there. There's a saying, it goes something like, the fish trap exists because of the fish. Once you have the fish, you can forget the trap. The rabbit snare exists because of the rabbit. Once you have the rabbit, you can forget the snare. And so I think that the point of any religion or any spiritual practice would be to catch the rabbit or the fish. Once you have this experience of the Almighty, once you have this experience, this boundary dissolving, unified experience of everything being one and interconnected and all things being possible through this divine creator, then you can forget whatever like religious dogma got you there. The point was to get there. And now that you have that experience, maybe the religious practice of X, Y, or Z, or saying this mantra versus that one, or whatever, will get you there. But the point is, the Buddha once said, the truth is a finger pointing at the moon. And I once heard a saying that said something along the lines of, and the fool always looks at the finger. So we don't want to get lost in religion. We don't want to get lost in what's, this one versus that one. And that's what causes war. What we want to do is acknowledge the fact that everybody has a different way. And as long as their behavior reflects the presence of the Almighty in their life, they're not raping kids, they're not stealing shit, they're not killing people, they're not cheating on their spouse. Okay. All right, let them do their thing. Blessing wise, I guess all I would say is, the Native Americans, they say aho. The monotheists, they say amen. And what that means is basically is I believe, or it is so, or it's already done. And I'd like to think that the world is already healed. It's already done. We just have to go through it. And as long as you're willing to make a change in yourself to heal yourself, then you can be a part of that healing of the world.
I love that. Jake, you're an interesting guy. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Cheers, man. And thanks everyone for listening. Take care. Bye.